When my daughter's teacher called saying, "She fainted. Come now," I rushed to school. The nurse said she was malnourished and asked, "When did she last eat?" I said, "This morning." My wife went silent. Then the teacher opened my daughter's lunchbox and said, "We need to talk." What I saw packed for 3 months made me sick. My wife never thought I'd find out. I'll never forget the smell that hit me when they opened my daughter's lunchbox. Rotting fruit. Something sour and brown smeared inside a small plastic container that used to hold sliced peaches. That smell, the smell of decay, was the moment I realized my wife had been lying to me for months. The nurse's office at Maplewood Elementary was small and sterile, the hum of the air conditioner the only sound until Nurse Latham cleared her throat. "Mr. Hale," she said carefully, "your daughter is stable now, but when did she last have a proper meal?" My mind blanked. This morning. Pancakes. Blueberries. She ate everything. Beside me, my wife, Jenna, clutched her designer purse so tight her knuckles went white. Her expression wasn't confusion or guilt. It was fear. Real bone-deep fear. Our daughter, Lily, was lying on the cot behind her, pale, trembling, her blonde hair matted to her forehead with sweat. She looked so small. "Daddy?" she whispered when she saw me. "I'm here, sweetheart," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "You're okay." The nurse exchanged a grim look with Lily's teacher, Mrs. Warner, a woman I'd known for 2 years. Always kind, always patient. But right now, her face was hard. "Mr. Hale," Mrs. Warner said quietly, "can we talk outside?" I followed her into the hall, the sound of my heartbeat echoing in my ears. She handed me her phone. "I've been documenting this for 2 weeks," she said. On the screen were photos, Lily's lunchbox, day after day. Monday, 3 saltine crackers and half a bruised apple. Wednesday, a slice of cheese wrapped in tissue paper. Friday, nothing but a juice box, half empty. And today, an empty plastic container lined with mold. I stared at the images, my mouth dry. This can't be right. "I thought so too," Mrs. Warner said, her voice shaking. "But it's been happening for months." I tried to ask Lily about it, but she got scared. She said if she told anyone, something bad would happen to you. That hit me like a punch. "What do you mean?" I demanded. She said her mom told her you were sick. That stress could make your heart stop. Couldn't breathe. My wife, the woman I'd spent 13 years with, the mother of my only child. She'd been starving our daughter and telling her that speaking up would kill me. When I went back into the room, Jenna was standing over Lily, smoothing her hair, the perfect image of a worried mother. But when she looked at me, I saw it. Something dark flickering in her eyes. Not remorse, not confusion, control. "Jenna," I said, my voice low, "what the hell have you been feeding her?" She didn't answer. She just whispered, "Evan, please not here." The nurse called Child Protective Services before I could even process what was happening. Within an hour, Lily was being transferred to St. David's Hospital for observation. CPS arrived soon after, a tired-looking caseworker named Marcus Trent. He asked me questions while Lily slept in her hospital bed, and 4 dripping fluids into her fragile arm. When he went to speak with Jenna privately, I watched through the glass window. She cried. She gestured wildly. She looked like the picture of grief and panic. But I'd spent 12 years as a profiler for the FBI. I'd built my life on spotting deception. And I knew what I was seeing wasn't guilt. It was strategy. That night, as my daughter slept and my wife whispered to a stranger on her phone outside the hospital, I made a decision. I was going to find out why the woman I loved had tried to destroy our child. And I was going to make her, and whoever she was protecting, pay for it. But what I didn't know yet was that Jenna wasn't acting alone. And the person behind it all knew me better than anyone alive. Before everything fell apart, my life looked almost perfect from the outside. We lived in a 2-story house on the edge of Aurora, Colorado, white siding, trimmed hedges, a swing set in the backyard that squeaked when the wind hit it right. I worked from home now, doing behavioral analysis for law enforcement training programs. After a decade in the FBI, I'd promised Jenna I was done with the darkness. She said she wanted a husband, not a ghost who chased killers in his sleep. And for a while I believed her. Jenna was magnetic, soft-spoken, charming, always put together like her life was a commercial. The kind of woman who made other people's lives seem sloppy by comparison. When I met her 12 years ago at a conference in Chicago, she'd been studying trauma counseling. We'd bonded over psychology, over how people break and rebuild themselves. She'd said she admired what I did, seeing monsters before they act. It sounded romantic back then. When Lily was born, Jenna gave up her degree to stay home. I offered to hire help, but she said no. She's my world, she'd said. I want to do it all myself. And she did for a while. Until she didn't. Started subtle. Jenna began taking what she called self-care days. One every couple of weeks at first, then twice a week. She said it was therapy, spa appointments, time to reconnect with herself. I didn't question it. I thought she'd earned it. But around that time, Lily started getting quieter. Not sad, just smaller. She'd pick at her dinner, say she wasn't hungry, and then stare at her plate like it scared her. I assumed it was a phase, kids go through that. I told myself I was overanalyzing, seeing patterns because I was trained to. Then there was the money. One morning, our joint account showed a $5,000 withdrawal. Jenna said it was for a home improvement project. But when I asked which one, she got defensive. Do you not trust me? That phrase, do you not trust me, became her favorite weapon. Over time, she started sleeping in the guest room. Said my late-night work calls made it hard for her to rest. She'd come to breakfast late, hair perfect, nails done, scrolling through her phone with a faint smile. A different kind of smile, one she used to reserve for me. And then came the changes in Lily. I'll never forget one night when I found her sitting on the kitchen floor, hugging her backpack to her chest. Are you okay, Bug? I asked. She nodded too fast. Just tired. But I saw it. Crumbs on her shirt, a half-eaten granola bar in her lap. She'd been hiding food from us. At the time, I told myself she was just being a kid, sneaking snacks. It didn't even register that something was wrong until that call from the school. Now, replaying everything, it was obvious. Every sign had been there. The missing money, the secret phone calls, the way she'd flinch when I mentioned Lily's lunches. But the worst part? 3 months earlier, Jenna had told me something that now felt like a premonition. We were sitting on the back porch. It was sunset, the kind of night that makes everything look too peaceful. She'd been drinking wine, staring at the sky. Do you ever feel, she asked, like you built your whole life around one mistake? I'd laughed, not understanding. A mistake. Getting married young. Having a kid before you knew who you really were. She looked at me then, eyes glassy. Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if I'd just chosen differently. I'd brushed it off, thinking it was stress. But that sentence came back to me every night after Lily was hospitalized. Because the Jenna I knew would never hurt our daughter. But the Jenna standing outside that hospital room, the one whispering into her phone, lying to CPS, trembling like a cornered animal. She wasn't the same woman. And when my brother Mark, a private investigator, came to stay with me 2 days later, he said something that froze my blood. She didn't change, Ev, he said. You just finally saw her. The day after Lily came home from the hospital, everything inside the house felt wrong. The rooms were too quiet, the air too clean. Every photo of us smiling felt like an accusation. Lily wouldn't let Jenna near her. She clung to me constantly. If I so much as left the room to take a phone call, she'd panic. That night, she woke up screaming from a nightmare, and I held her until dawn while Jenna slept soundly in the guest room like nothing had happened. By the second morning, I knew I couldn't pretend anymore. I called my brother Mark. Mark Hale was the opposite of me. Loud, unfiltered, and morally gray in a way that made him good at his job. He'd spent 20 years digging through other people's lies for a living. When he walked into my kitchen that Friday morning, he didn't say hey or sorry. He just dropped a folder on the counter. She's not where she says she is, he said. Who? Your wife, Jenna. I opened the folder. Photos. Timestamped. Jenna wasn't at her mother's like she'd told me. She was in Denver at a luxury hotel downtown, sitting across from a man I didn't recognize. Dark hair, sharp suit, maybe mid-30s, smiling at her like he already owned her. Next photo, they were holding hands. Then another, kissing in the parking lot. I stared at the pictures until my hands started to shake. "What's his name?" I asked. "Brandon Pierce," Mark said. "Calls himself a personal development coach. Real name's Brandon Devereux. He's been bankrupt twice, sued 3 times for fraud, and is currently running a motivational business online. And he's sleeping with your wife." I wanted to deny it, to say there had to be some explanation. But deep down I already knew. Mark kept talking. "I've seen this type before. He's a parasite. Targets women who feel trapped. Convinces them they're finding themselves while he drains their accounts." "How long?" "At least 6 months. Maybe longer." I looked around the kitchen. The spotless counters, the expensive appliances, the life I thought we'd built together. All of it had been financed by trust. My trust. And she'd used it to bankroll her affair. Mark pulled out another sheet of paper. "She took out a loan in your name, Ev. A big one. $250,000. My stomach dropped. "She forged your signature." I trained myself to stay calm in interrogations, to read through anger and fear. But at that moment, every inch of me was trembling. "She's not just cheating," Mark continued. "She's planning something." "What do you mean?" He slid his phone toward me. On the screen was a screenshot of Jenna's text messages to Brandon. "Jenna, he's distracted. Always working. He won't notice a thing. Brandon, you're almost free, baby. Just a few more weeks. Jenna, what about Lily? Brandon, we'll figure that out. One way or another." That last line made me go cold. Mark's eyes met mine. "Whatever's going on, it's bigger than an affair. This guy's dangerous. He's using her, maybe even pushing her to get rid of you or worse." He didn't have to finish. We both thought the same thing. The lunches, the lies, the manipulation. "Ev," Mark said softly, "this wasn't about money." He was isolating her, making her do things that would tie her to him. "He made her hurt your kid, and she did it." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in Lily's room, watching her breathe. The idea that my wife could have been part of something deliberate, something orchestrated, felt impossible. But then, just before dawn, I heard Jenna's voice downstairs. She was whispering on the phone. I crept down the stairs, every step measured. Her back was to me, her silhouette outlined by the kitchen light. "I know," she said softly. "He suspects something, but I can handle it." A pause. "Yes, I took care of the hospital thing. CPS thinks it was stress. They believe me." Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "No, Brandon, he'll never hurt her. That's not the point. She just needs to stay weak for now." I froze. "Stay weak?" Jenna ended the call, exhaled shakily, and set the phone on the counter. When she turned, she saw me. For a moment her face went blank. Then she smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. "You're up early," she said softly. "I couldn't sleep," I replied. "Neither could I." She walked past me to pour a glass of water. "Calm," practiced. I wanted to scream, to demand answers. But years in the bureau had taught me something vital. Never confront someone until you understand the game they're playing. So I smiled back. "Maybe we should take a trip," I said. "Get away. Just the 3 of us." Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Panic. Then she recovered. "That's sweet," she said. "But I think Lily needs stability right now." When she went upstairs, I picked up her phone. Password protected. Face ID only. And that's when I made my own decision. If Jenna and Brandon wanted to play mind games, I'd play too. But unlike them, I knew exactly how to dismantle someone without leaving fingerprints. And I was going to start by finding out exactly what Brandon Devereux wanted from my family, before he tried to take it all. I didn't believe Mark at first when he said there was more. He came over that Sunday night, his face gray, his usual smugness gone. He tossed another folder on my table, thicker this time. You might want to sit down, he said. Inside were bank statements, wire transfers, photos of documents I'd never signed. One caught my eye, a life insurance policy. My name, Jenna's signature. The beneficiary? Jenna Hale. $2 million. I frowned. This is my policy. I already have one through work. Mark nodded grimly. Yeah, except this one's new. Issued 3 months ago. You didn't file it. She did. He flipped another page. And look what happens if Lily dies before you. I read the clause 3 times before the words made sense. If the insured's dependent passes before the policyholder, the full payout reverts to the spouse. $2 million. Mark's voice was quiet. You see the picture now? I couldn't answer. The room felt small, the air thick. This wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was preparation. Jenna hadn't been starving Lily out of cruelty. She'd been conditioning her, making it look like illness, weakness, something that could escalate naturally. A tragic health crisis. The perfect alibi for a grieving mother. Mark set his jaw. Ev, I've seen people fake deaths, stage kidnappings, steal their own kids. But I've never seen a parent do this to cash out. She wouldn't, I said, even though I already knew she would. She's already halfway there, he replied. I traced calls between her and Brandon. They've been talking about flights. Costa Rica, maybe Panama. You're not invited. That night, I broke into Jenna's tablet. Took me an hour. I'd watched her unlock it too many times not to know her passcode. There were messages, hundreds of them. Some deleted, others hidden in a fake wellness app. But one voice memo stood out, sent from Brandon to Jenna. He'll never see it coming. That's the beauty of guilt, baby. Men like him blame themselves when things fall apart. All you have to do is keep playing the dutiful wife. Once Lily's situation escalates, you'll have your sympathy story. CPS will back you up. The press loves a tragic mother. Then we disappear. Clean. Then Jenna's voice. I don't know if I can keep doing this. She's getting thinner. That's the point, Brandon replied calmly. We need evidence she was sick. Malnutrition looks like a medical issue on paper. No one suspects the mother if the kid's already been to the hospital once. And Evan? He'll crumble. You'll get everything, the house, the payout, the narrative. Silence. Then Jenna whispered, what if she dies? Then it's faster. I dropped the tablet. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I'd profiled sociopaths before, people capable of cold logic, emotional detachment. But this was different. This was my wife, my daughter, my home. And the man pulling her strings wasn't just using her. He was building a weapon out of her grief and insecurity, and aiming it at me. I sent the files to Mark, then to an old contact at the bureau, a friend in cybercrime. Within hours, we had Brandon's real trail. He wasn't some life coach. His real name was Caleb Durant. He'd been accused of fraud, emotional abuse, and 2 disappearances linked to previous clients. Women who'd left their families for him, taken out loans, and vanished. Neither woman was ever found. Mark swore under his breath. Jesus, Ev. He's a serial manipulator. He makes women destroy themselves, and anyone who stands in the way. I sat in silence, staring at my hands. Every instinct in me screamed to go for him right then. Track him, confront him, end it. But I knew that wouldn't work. Men like Caleb didn't break under pressure. They broke under precision. So I called the only person who could help me pull off what came next. An old colleague from the bureau, Special Agent Dana Ruiz. When I told her what I'd found, she didn't hesitate. You're telling me a woman's being groomed to commit filicide for insurance money, she said flatly. Yes. And you have proof? I have recordings, texts, bank transfers, and a scared 8-year-old who won't eat. She exhaled. Then you need to stop thinking like a husband. Start thinking like a profiler again. That hit hard. Because she was right. I wasn't just fighting for custody now. I was fighting against 2 people who were already rewriting the story, turning themselves into victims before anyone even realized who the villains were. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she whispered something that nearly broke me. Daddy, Mommy says I make her sad. Is that true? I held her close. No, baby. You make the whole world better. She pressed her face into my chest. Then why does she cry when I eat? That's when I knew. Jenna wasn't just following orders. She believed him. Caleb had infected her. And if I didn't move fast, I was going to lose both of them, one to manipulation, the other to death. But before I could act, Caleb made his first move. He called me, and what he said on that call changed everything I thought I knew about this man, and about Jenna's past. Caleb's call came at 3:12 a.m. I was sitting in Lily's room again, the glow of her nightlight barely touching the wall. My phone vibrated, and when I saw the caller ID, unknown number, I knew it was him. I answered. Evan Hale, I said quietly. A pause. Then a voice smooth as polished glass. Didn't take you for a night owl document. Every muscle in my body tensed. Who is this? You already know. I've heard a lot about you. Your wife says you can read people. See through lies. He chuckled, low and deliberate. Tell me, how does it feel to finally miss one right under your roof? I didn't respond. I just listened, to his breathing, his tone, the confidence. He was taunting me but also testing me. I know what you're doing, I said flatly. Do you? Because from what I hear, you're losing everything. Your family, your reputation, your little FBI pension. I'm just giving Jenna what she deserves. You mean what you deserve. Let's not make this personal. Then he said something that chilled me. By the way, Lily's a sweet kid. Reminds me of someone I used to know. I stood up fast, every instinct in me flaring. If you come near her, oh, relax. I'm not a monster. She's safe for now. But you should probably check your email document. You've got quite the reputation online these days. He hung up. When I opened my inbox, my stomach dropped. There were emails from unknown addresses, copies of fake text threads, fabricated photos. Ones that showed me as an abusive husband. Claims of violence. A complaint already filed with CPS. Under Jenna's name. He was setting me up. The next morning, Mark confirmed it. He's framing you. Classic reversal tactic. Paints you as the aggressor, her as the victim. Once the story's public, nobody believes a word you say. Then we flip it first, I said. Mark frowned. Meaning we stop reacting and start building our own story. I called Dana Ruiz again. You told me to think like a profiler. I'm ready. For the next 48 hours, we built a plan. A psychological operation designed to dismantle Caleb Durant from the inside. First, we let him feel safe. We leaked small, believable pieces of information back to him. Through Jenna's phone, which I'd cloned. Messages that suggested I was cracking under pressure. Drinking. Angry. That I'd been seen arguing with CPS workers. Meanwhile, I made sure Jenna thought I was still in the dark. I apologized. I offered therapy. I even cooked her favorite meals again. Every time she saw me, she relaxed just a little more, believing she was still the one in control. But behind the scenes, Dana and Mark were laying groundwork. Every fake text Caleb had sent was being mirrored back to his own number via a compromised proxy server. Every account he'd used to contact Jenna was tagged and geo-tracked. Every word he said was being recorded. The trap wasn't just digital, it was psychological. Caleb's weakness was pride. He believed he was untouchable because he'd never been caught. He thought he'd turn Jenna into his puppet, me into his villain, and Lily into collateral damage. So we gave him exactly what he expected. A performance. I started playing the part of the broken man. Tired, distracted, careless. The kind of husband easy to frame and easier to manipulate. I even arranged a public argument with Jenna outside the courthouse, loud enough for witnesses to hear. 2 hours later, I knew Caleb would get the footage. Jenna's phone was still syncing to his cloud. That night, Jenna went back to her hotel to cool off, which was exactly what I wanted. Mark followed her car. She didn't go to the hotel. She went straight to Caleb. When Mark texted me, "They're together now," I said the words I hadn't said since my bureau days. Operation Greenlight. Let's move. Dana's team had been waiting. Cyber unit, financial crimes, and 2 undercover agents. All we needed was for Caleb to make one real move, to touch money, to mention the insurance, to cross the legal line. And he did. At 11:43 p.m., he initiated a transfer of $400,000 from the forged mortgage account to an offshore bank. The system flagged it immediately. Dana's tracer program intercepted the metadata and attached his real IP. But before the agents could move in, something unexpected happened. Jenna called me. Her voice was trembling, the kind of shake that only comes after the truth finally cracks through denial. "Evan," she whispered. "He's going to kill me." "What?" "He knows something's wrong. He found the recording on my tablet. He said if I ever talk to you again, he'll make Lily's death look like my fault." For a moment the world tilted. I looked at Mark, who was listening in, his jaw tight. "Where are you?" I demanded. "Hotel Monarch, room 312. He's packing." Mark was already grabbing his gun. "We move now." "No," I said sharply. "We do this right. If we go in, we lose the evidence. We need him to incriminate himself." But even as I said it, I knew something was off. Because Jenna didn't sound terrified of dying. She sounded terrified of being caught. And 2 minutes later, that suspicion became a fact. Dana texted me a file, a new recording from the tapped line. Caleb's voice, low and calm. "You're not scared, Jenna. You're stalling. You think your husband can save you? You think he hasn't already fallen for what I planted?" "I did what you said," she cried. "No, you did what you wanted. You liked it. You liked watching him suffer. Don't pretend this was just me." The sound of a slap, a scream, then silence. Then Caleb said something that changed the game entirely. "You think I started this? Jenna, I didn't find you. You found me." I replayed Caleb's words again and again in my head. "You think I started this? Jenna, I didn't find you. You found me." It didn't make sense. Caleb was a predator. I'd seen his pattern a dozen times before. He didn't get found. He hunted. Mark and I sat in my truck across from the Hotel Monarch, listening through the live feed Dana had patched into our earpieces. Agents were staged nearby, waiting for the go signal. But my focus was locked on that single phrase. Something about it didn't fit. "Mark," I said slowly, "run a background check on Jenna. Not recent, go back to before we met. College, internships, any known associates." He glanced at me. "You think she had a record? Not criminal. Psychological." He frowned but started typing on his laptop anyway. Inside the hotel, the audio feed came alive again. Jenna's voice was trembling. "I did everything you wanted. I ruined my marriage. I hurt my daughter." "No," Caleb said softly. "You hurt them because you wanted to. I just gave you permission." Then came the sound of glass breaking. A struggle. A thud. "Dana," I hissed into the calm. "Move in now." 2 agents went up. 30 seconds later. "We've got the room." Durant's down. Alive but unconscious. Woman's shaken but okay. I exhaled, every nerve still sparking. When I saw Jenna 10 minutes later in the hotel hallway, she was crying. Not sobbing, just trembling, like someone who'd been caught halfway between 2 lives. Her lip was split, her mascara streaked, but her eyes were dry. "Evan," she whispered. I didn't know how to stop. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that she'd been manipulated, coerced, trapped by a sociopath. But then Mark's phone buzzed. He looked at it, then at me, his face drained of color. "Ev, you need to see this." He turned the screen toward me. It was a digital copy of an old psychiatric evaluation, dated 12 years ago. 2 years before I met her. Patient name, Jenna Ward. Maiden name. Facility, Clearwell Behavioral Institute. Diagnosis, narcissistic personality disorder, secondary manipulative tendencies. Incident, documented coercion of a peer resulting in severe emotional trauma. And at the bottom, the signature of the attending psychologist, Dr. Caleb Durant. My vision tunneled. She hadn't met him 6 months ago. She'd known him for over a decade. He'd been her therapist. So we drove back to my house that night in silence. Jenna sat in the back of the car with her hands cuffed. Standard procedure until the bureau cleared her statement. She kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror. Every time our eyes met, she looked away first. At home, I sat in my office with Mark, staring at the files Dana had sent. The timeline was sickening. 12 years ago, before she met me, Jenna Ward had been under psychiatric care following a breakdown during her counseling internship. The official note said she'd become inappropriately attached to her supervising psychologist. That psychologist was Durant. He'd lost his license after another complaint surfaced, but it was sealed. And Jenna? She'd left the facility and disappeared for almost a year. No forwarding address. No employment record. Nothing. Then, out of nowhere, she'd reappeared in Denver under her married name. That's why she was so drawn to you, Mark muttered. You were his replacement. I nodded slowly. His type. His control dynamic. But the more I read, the more twisted it became. Durant hadn't just been her therapist. He'd been her obsession. There were journal entries in her file, copies recovered from old backups. She wrote about him like a prophet. He sees the truth in me. He says empathy is a weakness. He says love is control. He'd groomed her, conditioned her, and then she'd gone looking for him again after I left the bureau. She'd found him through a self-help forum he'd started under an alias. The affair hadn't been about attraction or escape. It had been about reunion. Mark leaned back, rubbing his face. Jesus Christ, she's been circling this guy for years. He didn't find her. She brought him back into your lives. And dragged Lily into it. I stared at the photo of my daughter taped to my desk. Her shy smile, missing front tooth. The innocence she'd lost because her mother had never healed from the monster who'd shaped her. When Dana arrived the next morning, she dropped another bomb. Durant regained consciousness, she said. He's talking, but not the way you think. She handed me a transcript. Durant's words, spoken hours after his arrest. She was never a victim. She came to me again. Said she wanted to finish what we started. She's smarter than me now, colder. You think she did all this for me? No. She did it to destroy you. I looked up. What? Dana's expression was grim. He claims the insurance wasn't for him. It was for her. She planned to disappear, frame you for Lily's death, then vanish with the money. He says she was using him as the cover. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Mark finally broke the silence. So she was running both of you. She played victim to him and martyr to me, I said quietly. And almost got away with it, Dana added. I felt something cold settle inside me. A clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. She wanted me destroyed, I said. But she underestimated one thing. What's that? Dana asked. I looked up at her. That I don't bluff. I was done playing defense. The next phase wasn't about catching her. It was about exposing her. And the only way to do that was to make Jenna confess, willingly on record without ever realizing that she was confessing at all. When Dana called me back to headquarters that morning, I already knew something had shifted. Not legally, emotionally. Jenna had started talking. They had her in a small gray interview room, wrists free, voice calm. The kind of calm that made people underestimate the danger in front of them. I'd seen it in suspects before. People who didn't panic because they already accepted what they'd done. When I entered, she looked up, her lips cracked but steady. I was wondering when you'd come, she said softly. I didn't sit right away. I just looked at her, the woman I'd married, the woman who'd smiled at our wedding like she'd won something. What was the endgame, Jenna? I asked finally. Money? Freedom? Was that worth our daughter's life? She exhaled, almost annoyed. You still don't get it. It was never about money. Dana watched from the corner, silent. Jenna leaned forward, her voice low. You built this perfect life for us, Evan. You decided what we needed, who I was supposed to be. You created the rules. What I ate, what I wore, who I saw. I blinked. That's not true. It is because everything was about control with you. Even your kindness was control. Every "are you okay?" was a test. Every hug was surveillance. You studied me like one of your cases. I felt my stomach twist. You're saying this is my fault? She smiled thinly. I'm saying I learned it from the best. For a moment, I saw something in her eyes. Not rage, not madness, but clarity. The cold, lucid kind that comes when someone has rewritten their morality. She went on, quieter now. Caleb taught me that love doesn't make people good. It makes them predictable. He said the only way to be free is to destroy what defines you. So I tried. I destroyed the perfect family, the perfect husband, the perfect little girl who made me feel small every time she looked at me like I was supposed to be something better. Her voice cracked, and she laughed. A short, hollow sound. She was everything I wasn't. Evan. Pure. Kind. Easy to love. And every day, she reminded me that I'd given birth to something I could never become. The words hit harder than any confession of crime could. So you hurt her because she was better than you? I whispered. No, she said simply. Because she was proof that you didn't need me. The silence that followed was unbearable. Dana finally spoke. You do realize you're describing a deliberate act of psychological and physical harm to a child, correct? Jenna looked at her. You call it harm. I call it liberation. She would have grown up and learned to pity me too. Couldn't breathe. This wasn't manipulation talking anymore. This was who she'd become, or maybe who she'd always been. Jenna, I said slowly, you had a choice every step of the way. I know, she said, and I chose peace. You'll understand one day. She leaned back, folding her hands neatly in her lap. You always said truth sets people free. Well, here's mine. I never wanted to kill her. I just wanted her to fade, to stop being the reminder of everything I failed to be. That was it. The cold, horrifying reason. Not greed, not orders, just envy. She'd starved her daughter because love, real, innocent love, exposed what she couldn't stand about herself. When Dana ended the interview, Jenna asked one last question as they let her out. Will Lily ever forgive me? I didn't answer, because forgiveness wasn't mine to give. That night, when I got home, Lily was asleep on the couch, her little hand clutching a stuffed fox. I sat beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her face. In the quiet, I realized something I hadn't understood until then. The opposite of hate wasn't love. It was absence. And what Jenna had given our daughter, all that fear and hunger, was her way of trying to erase herself from Lily's heart before Lily could erase her. She failed, because Lily still had me, and we still had the truth. The morning of the sentencing, the sky over Denver was gray, flat and soundless, like the city was holding its breath. Jenna was led into the courtroom wearing beige prison clothes, her wrists cuffed loosely in front of her. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at anyone. The judge read through the charges. Child endangerment, fraud, conspiracy. The prosecutor presented the evidence we'd gathered: messages, voice memos, financial records, and then played a brief section of Jenna's own interview from weeks earlier. I didn't want to kill her, she said in that recording, her voice detached, almost clinical. I just wanted her to fade. There was a collective shudder in the room. When the judge asked if I wanted to make a statement, I stood. My hands were steady, my voice wasn't. I'm not here for revenge, I said. That would mean there's something left between us to destroy. There isn't. I'm here because I need it recorded that my daughter lived through something no child should ever face, and she survived. Not because of what Jenna did, but in spite of it. I looked directly at Jenna. Lily still laughs. She still plays. She still believes the world is kind. You couldn't take that from her. That's the only justice that matters. When I sat down, Jenna didn't cry. She just closed her eyes, like she was finally letting go of whatever story she told herself to make all this make sense. The judge sentenced her to 10 years. No parole for 7. That night, after the courtroom emptied and the news vans left, Lily and I went home. She was waiting for me with her little backpack already packed. Is it over? She asked. Yes, I said quietly. It's really over. She looked relieved for a moment, then hesitated. I still dream about her sometimes. That's okay, I told her. Dreams don't make her real again. We took a drive out past the city, up to the ridge where you can see the lights stretch out forever. Lily rolled down her window, hair blowing in the cold wind. She pointed at the horizon. You think Mommy can see this from where she is? I didn't know what to say, so I told her the truth. I think she's finally looking at herself, and that's harder than looking at anything else. Lily nodded slowly, thoughtful in that way she always was now. I don't hate her, she said, but I don't miss her either. You don't have to, I said. You just have to keep being you. Over the next few months, life rebuilt itself piece by piece. There were therapy sessions, school projects, late-night movies with popcorn. Lily started smiling again, for real this time. Not the forced, guarded kind of smile I'd seen in the hospital. I went back to consulting work part-time, still watching every behavioral tick in every room I entered. But I wasn't searching for danger anymore. I was watching for peace. One day, Lily came home with a drawing she'd made in art class. 3 figures. A tall man, a small girl, and between them, a thin gray outline of a woman, fading at the edges. That's us, she said. And that's her. I asked why she'd drawn her that way. Because she's gone, Lily said simply. But not all gone. Just far enough that she can't hurt us anymore. I hung it on the fridge. A year later, on the anniversary of the hospital day, I drove back to Maplewood Elementary. The nurse, Diane, still worked there. When she saw me, she smiled. How's Lily? Healthy, I said. Happy. She laughed softly. You two are proof that some stories can go right again. As I walked out, I realized she was right. Revenge hadn't saved us. Truth had. That night, as I tucked Lily into bed, she reached out and took my hand. Daddy? She whispered. Are we safe now? I squeezed her fingers. Yeah, sweetheart. We're safe. And for the first time in a long time, I actually believed it. The world doesn't always give you justice wrapped up neat. Sometimes it just gives you the chance to keep living after everything's been broken. And if you're lucky, that's enough.